Welcome to our seller seminar. Thank you for coming, even though we switched it up on you a bit. Normally we're in person and I am a little under the weather. So if I start coughing or having a coughing attack, just ignore me. Martin, you can jump in. But we are here with you. We wanted to bring you some good info. So specifically, we want to talk to sellers, and we're going to talk to you about a lot of different things today, but sellers are, it is a super low inventory market. And so this actually happens to be a good time for sellers to sell. So we're going to talk about why that might be and what the overall market looks like and all kinds of fun stuff tonight. We will be done by 7 p.m. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll address them at the end. And so let's jump in and get started. All right, so my name is Brittany Hannon. I'm a real estate agent, coach, and investor. I got into real estate in 2016 when I bought my first piece of investment real estate out of state. And after I did that, I said, you know what, that was pretty fun. I think I want to do this. And so in 2020, I went full-time as a real estate agent. Before this, I had an almost 20-year-long career in educational leadership. And so I was doing coaching, training, teaching, all that kind of fun stuff. And so that really translated over into doing this type of thing. So I like to do this for my clients, but we also do it for my coaching agents that I have. And a little while after I became a full-time agent, I actually also became a coach for our Keller Williams program here. So love doing this. And I specifically love doing these kind of classes for you. So we do this once a month where we're talking about buyers and sellers. So it's a buyer and seller seminar. It's the last Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. So definitely come. You're invited to all of them. And normally they're in person, but they are also always on Zoom. So we invite you to come. And this month, we have Martin, who's my favorite lender, here with us. And so Martin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Brittany. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm grateful for all of the people that are here with us today. My name again is Martin Rosenblum. I am with Motif Mortgage. We're the in-house lender for Keller Williams. And I have been in the industry. I've been in mortgage lending for 38 years. May 15th was my anniversary. So I just celebrated my 38th year in the business.
Oh, wow.
And I also do financial advising. And I've been doing that for 24 years. So I'd like to think I bring a lot to the table in helping people, not just with understanding what a rate might be and what their payments are, but actually going through all their qualifications, affordability, helping to ease their minds with regard to what they can do financially and how all the other areas of their finances do come into play and how we can kind of put everything all together in being able to come up with ways and solutions to help people purchase their new properties.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's jump in. We're going to talk about where we're going today. So we're going to talk a little bit about the market, and elephant in the room is so many people say, if I have a 2% interest rate, I'm not going to go to a 7% interest rate. So we're going to talk actually about what that looks like and what that means. Because as Martin said, we're not here to just, like tell people, no, now's the time to buy or now's the time to sell. We're really here to try and help you live your best financial life. And Martin has a background in financial planning. And so he doesn't come at it as, you just need to buy or you just need to sell. Period. We're really looking at, does it make sense for you? And so we're addressing today the people who it makes sense for. So we're going to talk a little bit about the market. Here's where it comes in. We're going to talk about why would you sell in this market? And then we're going to say, okay, if you've decided that, yes, you do want to sell, how do we go about doing that in this market? Then we're going to talk about the bottom line. And if you stay with us until the end, we are going to give you a bonus. So make sure you stay with us until the end. And we are going to be talking about all this stuff and more. All right, Martin, tell us a little bit about interest rates. I always love talking about this little image. And so we've brought it up, I think, at the last two. Now this is the third one. Maybe this will be a staple of our seminars. I don't know. But tell us a little bit about the interest rates and what this means for us.
Definitely can do that. I love this slide, actually. I created this kind of looking at hearing everybody's anxieties about interest rates. And obviously, interest rates, there's always going to be volatility. And we're seeing a lot of volatility right now. And of course, interest rates are a lot higher than they were a couple of years ago. So when we start looking at rates, and what I show here in the slide with the upper right-hand corner, with the person going up the stairs, and if you can see it, he is technically having a yo-yo. And what we always focus on with a yo-yo is it bouncing up and down. So with rates going up and down the way they have and the volatility that we're seeing, and we're constantly seeing that up and down yo-yo sensation with interest rates right now, what people fail to see is that if they're always waiting for interest rates to come down before I purchase, and we don't know when that's going to be. Trying to time markets is extremely difficult, even for experts. And realistically, failure is high when you try to time markets. So what I always try to do in pointing out to people is rather than focusing on that yo-yo, which is the up and down of interest rates, always look at what's going to happen over time. And what we fail to see is that person slowly going up the stairs over time, which is the appreciation in your home. So what we fail to realize is what's going to happen over time because we're so focused on what's happening today. And realistically, if you look at what the future may hold, instead of focusing on just today, of course, we still have to contend with affordability, and we do take that into consideration. But when you're looking at interest rates, you can always refinance when interest rates go down. I always like to tell people I bought my first home back in 1989. And the interest rate at the time was around 14% with the loan program that I had with it was an adjustable rate mortgage. It had a very high index, it had a high margin. And at 14%, I really didn't even cringe at that time because coming out of the 80s, interest rates were a lot higher earlier on. So it wasn't that bad at that time, but I didn't even think about the interest rate because all I was thinking about is buying a home. Because I figured over time, and even being in the business, that at some point in time, I'd be able to make my payments a lot more affordable because sooner or later, interest rates are going to come back down, and I was able to refinance. And what I show in the bottom graph here is looking at what interest rates have done since 1972. I think it goes back almost 50 years here. And then when you start looking at the ups and downs of interest rates, they've been all over the place. And obviously right now we're coming back up on a higher side, which unfortunately is not in this graph, but everybody knows that in 2023, interest rates have gone up. But what we fail to look at is the red line, and that's the appreciation of home values. And when we look at that line, regardless of what interest rates have been doing, with rare exception, we're always seeing that line going in an upward movement. So we're always seeing housing prices appreciate over time, regardless of what those interest rates have done. And what I like to just show people is that try to focus on what your needs are, what your goals are, the reasons why you're in the home that you may have at this time, and is there a need to maybe purchase another home for whatever reason. I wouldn't focus on the interest rates because they are going to fluctuate over time, but focus more on what your need for housing is and why it may be a necessity or a want or a desire to be able to purchase a new home at this time, not focusing on interest rates, but focusing more on what the goals and needs are of your family.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your story about paying 14%. And it seems so high, but for you, you were coming off of in the 80s, it was even higher than that. And so do you regret your decision to buy at that time?
Not at all. Love the house that I bought. I lived there for 10 years. It gave me the ability to then step up into a larger home as my family was growing. So I was able to purchase another home 10 years later. And I've kept that home as now a rental property. And I use that home and the equity that was gained in it to help me make the down payment on the new home that I live in now. So over the years, I've been extremely happy with real estate, and I've always made decent decisions with it. And it's been a tremendous benefit in owning the properties that I have right now, all because I took that first step and didn't really care about interest rates. All I cared about was what can I do, how can I do it, and how is it going to propel me into trying to create wealth creation over time.
Yeah. And I always say it's not about the timing the market, it's about time in the market. And so when you have it, just like what you're saying, you have your house over time, it's gonna pay you back hugely. You're not even gonna think about the fact that you paid 14% or you paid whatever the dollar amount was, because it goes up so much more. And so everybody who bought 20, 30 years ago, there's not a single soul on the planet that says, I regret that decision. I should have never bought and held it this long. Nobody's going to say that. People are so happy with their purchase because it's time in the market. You want to take, like appreciation over time, just like this red line is showing us. So I love that. All right. And Martin, I want you to take this one too. This is showing us mortgage rates over time. So what does this tell us?
Okay, so this is showing us obviously what interest rates have done since 1972. And when you look at the average since then, and we're looking at a 50-year average here, and it does take the early 80s into consideration, of course, but the average interest rate was 7.81%. And everybody's looking at interest rates today and thinking that, well, I'm going to wait for, and it's amazing when you poll people what they're waiting for. 5.5% is the number that comes out. And I always try to explain to people that realistically, 5.5% is not the average market rate. And if you're waiting for the average market rate to appear, like I said, here in the last 50 years, the average market rate was 7.81%. Even if we discount the early 80s and we just go from about the early 90s, from 1990 or so. So we've got about a 30+ year history of interest rates, and we're still at a market average of just a hair under 6%. And when you look at the last 10 years, yes, interest rates have been lower, but we're taking into consideration markets that were not really realistic because of different situations that occurred, especially with COVID and the pandemic and interest rates dropping as low as they did. That is not normal. And that is not really going to stay that way for a length of time as we're seeing now. And it's not going to change the averages that much when you're looking at long term. So realistically, if everybody's waiting for 5.5%, realistically, market rates are going to be in that 5.5 to 6.5% range. So as we're in that marketplace now, where interest rates are hovering right around 7%, can they come down a little bit more? Yes, they can. At what point in time? I have no clue on that. I'm not even going to begin to try to time the market, as I explained earlier, not to do. And to look at where we're at today, what can we do today, and what if interest rates do drop at some point in time? Yes, you can always refinance. And I've done that many times with the homes I've owned in the past. And you've always seen this ups and downs with rates, but you can always make your payments more affordable at such time that the rates do come down. And I've been very happy and pleased with that going on through the time as well.
Yep. What do we say? Date the rate, marry the house.
Yes,
Be
very much
tied
so.
to the house. You want to get into the house that you want. And then the interest rates, if and when they drop, that's when you can refinance. Just even for me, I'm in the process of buying a house right now, and Martin's helping me with that. And we're talking about interest rates and should we lock them and should we not? And are they going up? Are they going down? The reality is that for me, I don't care as much. I want to get into a house now because I know that if interest rates do drop, which we'll talk about later, there are going to be a lot more people coming to the market. There's going to be a lot of competition for me, and I might not be able to buy the house that I want. And so I want to make sure that I'm getting in right now. And then if interest rates drop significantly, great, I can refinance because I'm already in the house that I want. So it is time, it's not a bad thing to buy right now, but we're talking about sellers. So let's keep it moving. So low inventory gives sellers the upper hand. Why is that? We've talked about this before, but just a reminder, real estate is always about supply and demand. Economics 101. When supply is low, like it is right now, it's extremely low. That inventory is low. Demand is high. That means that prices go up. And that is where the sellers have the upper hand, because right now the prices are going up. We are still in a seller's market, although what we're seeing is a lot of volatility, because what Martin is saying is that, excuse me, as the interest rates fluctuate daily, There are buyers who are like me saying, no, we just need to buy right now. And there are some buyers who are pulling back saying, no, I'm going to wait for that 5.5%. So we are still in a seller's market, but it's because of that super, super low inventory that we have. So if you need to sell, now is a really good time to do it. You have the upper hand. Now, that may change because as there are more buyers that come to the market, as interest rates drop and more buyers come to the market, the prices go up and the demand goes up, but we don't know when that's going to happen. And realistically, it could not happen, it could not happen this year, especially because it's there's all this talk about the debt ceiling and all of that happening. It's a presidential election year, so there's all kinds of volatility there. There's a lot of factors in play that make it so we don't know what's coming up. We don't have a crystal ball. So right now, today, we're still in a seller's market and we still have very low inventory, which gives you, the seller, the upper hand. All right, so let's talk about why would you sell, because we've talked about how right now it can be a good time for buyers. So realistically, why would you sell? So there are a few different types of seller motivation. So in a market like this, who is selling? Well, there are people who are selling for personal reasons. They need a new home. They have a job change, kids coming, kids going, death, divorce, all kinds of stuff. They need to start a new school. They relocated out of state. They have to move. So there are some people who are saying, I need to move. Or it may even be, they have a 2-story house and they need to downsize. They want to get rid of the stairs. It's hard on their knees. Whatever the reason is, there are lots of reasons personally why people need to move. Then sometimes people inherited a house. You got a house that you didn't really want in the first place. When that's the case, those sellers are very motivated to get rid of it. This is a great market for that. Saying, you have a house, it's in probate, whatever it is, you're going to have buyers who come and who want to take that house off your hands. And then the third one is going to be an investment property or second home, getting rid of a headache property or moving up into a 1031 exchange. Oftentimes when you move up into a 1031, which is just basically a tax advantage for you, oftentimes when you move up into a different property, you're in a whole different market, whole different price point. There are lots of different things that you're looking at. And so you may just be wanting to say, you know what, I'm done with a single family house. I want to get a 4-plex or an 8-plex or a big apartment property. So that's going to be a very different market. So a lot of these people are saying that now is the time to sell. Now, let's talk about the benefits of selling right now in this market. And Martin, I'm going to pass this one to you. I'll go through this and I want you to just talk about each of these 3 benefits that we have here. The benefits of selling, what would be the benefits of selling right now? So right now we are talking about the buyer demand is still high. So the prices are still going up. So it's commanding a higher purchase price, but that may change, just like what we had said.
Well, it can. So one of the things too that may come up is with regard to not only are buyers waiting for interest rates to drop, but most homeowners who have lower interest rates at this time may want or need to sell, but they're probably not doing it this time because they want interest rates to be lower too for the new home that they're purchasing. But we have to remember that as buyers are waiting for those rates to drop, if sellers are doing the same thing, that means that when rates do drop, more sellers might be a little bit more acclimated to now may be a better time to sell my house, because even though I have a lower interest rate, if I can bridge that gap and rates drop, it'll be more advantageous for me to sell my house. So as sellers are waiting for rates to drop, that means when they do, more sellers may come into the market, which is now going to create less of a seller's market, which is going to create less of a demand for properties because there's more of them on the market. So now we can see maybe those sales prices not diminishing, but not growing by leaps and bounds as they currently are at this time. So the advantages of selling today are that there is such low inventory. There is still decent demand out there because there are buyers that are looking to purchase. I go to a lot of open houses. I meet a lot of buyers. I have a lot of pre-qualifications going on right now. And the problem is that the buyers are not finding enough properties on the market to be able to go make offers on. So right
Mhm.
now is an incredible time for sellers to buy. I'm sorry, for
Yeah,
sellers to sell.
to sell. So with a low interest rate, you touched on this, but I want you to talk about this too. With a low interest rate, you also have minimal tax advantages.
Okay.
A higher interest rate will create a higher mortgage, but a higher tax advantage may help to bridge that gap.
Correct. So this is a great point to bring up. A lot of people who had purchased homes 2, 3, 4 years ago or whenever, and refinanced a couple years ago when rates are in the 3% range. So a lot of people may have a $500,000 or $600,000 mortgage with a 3% interest rate, and they have their property taxes as well. But when you look at tax advantages, right now the standard deduction for taxes is $27,700, I think it is. So when you look at somebody that has even a $600,000 mortgage with a 3% interest rate, that's only $18,000 a year in interest. Even with your property taxes, you're probably not getting up to the 27,000 standard deduction. So you are getting a minor tax break because of the standard deduction. But now we fast forward to today, say that same buyer, I'm sorry, that same seller goes and purchases a new home, and now they have an $800,000 mortgage. And now with that, let's just say even 6%. So 800,000 is 6%. That's now a $48,000 interest write-off plus your property taxes. Now you're going to be pushing $58,000 or more in write-offs. So now instead of taking a standard deduction, you're itemizing those deductions and you're increasing that deduction by $30,000. That's going to be a huge tax break in a 22 to 25% tax bracket. So it doesn't make up significantly for the difference in payment that you have currently to what it may be in the future, but it is going to bridge that gap, and it does give you tremendous write-offs in being able to do that.
Well, and I think it's just the benefit for those people who do need to sell. So there are a lot of people who are
Of
saying,
course.
yeah, that's not going to be for me. But there are a lot of people in every market who have to sell. And so this is one of those benefits. And then the third thing, using equity from the proceeds of your sale can be used to buy down your interest rate for your next purchase. Tell us about that.
Very good point to bring up as well. So when you look at, you have a home that you're selling, you may not want to sell because of where interest rates are at. Keep in mind, a lot of sellers right now do have a tremendous amount of equity in their home. And a lot of people are thinking, well, to make my mortgage more affordable, I'm just going to make a larger down payment. And realistically, especially with today's interest rates, if you make a larger down payment, yes, you'll borrow less. Yes, you will have a lower payment. However, for less than half of what you could use to pay down your mortgage, you could use a amount to buy down an interest rate, and a lower interest rate using a much less amount of equity of your property to buy down that interest rate is actually going to save you much more money in your monthly mortgage payments. So by using some of your equity in the home and being able to buy down an interest rate, it's going to help also bridge that gap. So not only are you going to get better tax advantages in purchasing today, but you're also going to be able to bridge that gap further by buying down that interest rate instead of from 6 or 7% down to 5 or 6%. And that 1% difference in rate can be huge for you as well. So there are a lot of different options available to those who are selling their home, not wanting to do so because of where interest rates are at, but knowing that we can help bridge that gap with the tax advantages and rate buy down options that they have available to them.
I love that because I think that what I really like about this is that we're getting creative with this to say, okay, how can we make it so that we bridge that gap? Because there is going to be a gap more than likely, unless you're downsizing. There's probably going to be a gap between what you're paying, your monthly mortgage payment now, and your monthly mortgage payment if you sell and buy something right now. However, there are solutions, or at least things that can help. And I think that we don't talk about this very often. So it's a really good point for people who are thinking of selling to hear and to understand. So I do love that.
Brittany,
All
there
right.
is one more thing I would like to throw out.
Yes.
So keep in mind too, I'm talking about people who are living in California, Ventura County, of course, and possibly looking to sell maybe trying to figure out if they want to sell and move somewhere again in Ventura County. But keep in mind too, I deal with a lot of sellers who are looking to try to figure out ways to sell their property because they're moving out of state. And keeping in mind too, if you have a lot of equity in your home, you can move out of state. You don't have to pay $1 million for a home here in Ventura County. You can move to another state for $300,000, $400,000, or $500,000. Again, I'm just hypothetically throwing out numbers, but having that kind of equity in your home does give you the ability to still sell in this market, get top dollar for your home, not have to worry about interest rates, and be able to buy another property somewhere else and possibly pay cash for the property or with a significantly low loan amount.
Yeah. So there's still benefits to selling. There are definitely benefits to selling right now. So it just depends on your motivation. If now is the time to sell for you, then this is a great time to sell. And here are some, ways that we can take advantage of some of these benefits. All right, so let's talk about how would we sell in this market. And here's where I'm going to jump in as the real estate agent, do a little mini listing presentation for you. What we're really going to talk about is the two biggest price depressors. I want to talk about pricing. So the two biggest price depressors, what brings prices down, are time on the market. So oftentimes you see things that are, you see houses that have been sitting for a week, a month, and you say, oh, there must be something wrong with it, right? That's always what we go to. There has to be something wrong with it because we have not seen anything sit on the market for any length of time for years now. And so if something is sitting on the market, we automatically say, oh, something must be wrong with it. And so I'm going to offer lower. And so what you want to do as the seller is avoid the length of time on the market. And then number two, buyer delay in writing an offer. So we always know, we know about, what is it called? Buyer remorse. We know about buyer remorse. And so what we want to try and do is we want to get people really excited about it before they are going home. So me as your agent, I'm going to come in and I'm going to create a pricing strategy and a whole strategy with you to talk about how we're going to put it on the market so that it is on the market for the least amount of time. And I'm going to be going to the showings to talk to those buyers agents, to talk to your potential buyers about what kind of offers they can write. So I'm going to be building that price up. And here's why the pricing strategy is so important, because we're talking about now is a really good time to sell. However, there are still things that are sitting on the market because they were priced a little bit too high to start with, is usually the reason. So what we want to do is we want to come to your home, whether it's a total fixer, whether it is beautiful, turnkey, ready to go, and we're going to price it appropriately. Usually what that means is we're going to price it a little bit lower because we want the most eyeballs on the property. And we want to make sure that those buyers, once they come in, they are ready to write an offer. So we're going to get motivated buyers, pre-approved buyers. If they aren't pre-approved, we're going to have them talk to Martin and get pre-approved to make sure that they are the right people are seeing your home. Because we know that the two biggest price depressors, and you see it in your own, with your own eyes, is time on the market and then buyer delay in writing an offer. So the types of pricing strategies depend on your motivation. So we already talked about that the only people who are selling in this market are motivated. And so I'm not talking to people who are saying, no, I don't want to sell. I don't really need to. Maybe if I could sell for $12 million, but really my home is worth $700,000. I'm not talking to those people because yes, when you're ready to sell, I'm here to help. I'm talking to the people who need to sell right now. And here are the different types of pricing strategies. So the sellers who want the highest price and will do what it takes to get it. So these people are looking for the highest price. Now you're going to hear me say very similar things for all of these, is that if you want the highest price, we're not starting at the top. We're starting down low. We want to start low to be able to get that bidding war going. Now that's where I come in as your agent, because like I said, I'm going to be at your showings. I'm going to be talking to those buyers agents. I'm going to be talking to your buyers. I'm going to be there getting those prices up. So oftentimes, if you want to sell for $1 million, we're going to price it at maybe $950. And a lot of times it's going to go well over $1 million because of the pricing strategy. So when you want the highest price, oftentimes we're going to be going lower. Now, the next one is a fast close. This is a person who really wants to sell. You have a deadline. You have to be moving out of state. Your kids are starting a new school. You have an ill parent, whatever it is. This seller has a deadline and will take a lower purchase price to get out fast. Now, here's the thing is that the pricing strategy for this one is going to be very similar. We're going to price it low because we want to go fast. But in this market, when we're pricing it low, we're going to get a lot of eyeballs on the property. We're going to get all of those buyers to see your home, and we're going to get that bidding war going so that we can get up higher. Now, keep in mind, when I say bidding war, a lot of people say, no, I don't want a bidding war. I don't want to deal with that. But guess what? That's my job. That's what I get to do. So you don't have to have the headache of that. You don't have to worry about that. That's what I'm going to do for you. So if you want a fast close, the strategy to use is a lower purchase price. And so that's going to get you out fast and will likely still get you the highest price. Now, the sellers who are selling for convenience, these sellers don't need the money or care about the time. For them, it's all about the ease of the process. Now, for this person, for this seller, the pricing strategy doesn't necessarily need to be low. Now, I would still say it would be a little bit lower than market. So for instance, if we were selling that $1 million home, I wouldn't necessarily price it at $950, but maybe I would price it at $980. And the reason for this is because, I have a story of my grandparents who wanted to sell their home, but they're much older. So they had a lot of stipulations. I don't want showings after 6 p.m. because that's their bedtime. I don't want to be, like talking to 100 different people coming through my door. I just want people who are going to come in and actually be qualified buyers. Now, this again is where your listing agent comes in. That's where I come in, and I'm going to be able to make sure that we are only having qualified buyers walk through the door. And so, like I said, the pricing strategy here is going to be that we're still going to price it a little bit low, but we don't want to price it so low that we get so many looky-loos and buyers and people saying, oh, what's going on here? What's happening? We don't want that, because we want a convenient, easy process. We don't want people coming in at 8 p.m. saying, I just want to take a look. No. We want to make sure that it's easy for you. Now, you also want to keep in mind that when you're selling it for that, you're probably still going to get that higher price. But what happens there is that sometimes those sit a little bit longer on the market. And going back to what we just talked about, time on the market is the biggest price depressor. So you really have to strike the balance there of getting the right price without it being too high, because if it is too high and it sits on the market for too long, then you're going to get people who come and say something's wrong with it, so I'm going to offer a lot less. So we always want to make sure that we are really looking at the motivation to be able to price appropriately. So that's how we sell your home. All right, so we talked about the market. We talked about why should I sell. We talked about how we should sell. If we determine that, yes, we need to sell, how do we do it? Now let's talk about the bottom line. All right, so should you sell your home? There are always people who need to sell, like we talked about, people who have death, divorce, job loss, job change, kids moving in, kids moving out, any of that kind of stuff. So if you need to sell, if your motivation is right for selling, then now is the time, because you're going to get a high price for your home, and potentially a higher price than you even thought you would get. And especially for the people who don't necessarily need to buy again, now is a really good time to sell. So those people who are investors, who have a second home, who want to just get rid of it, now is a really good time to sell. The next bottom line are talking about interest rates. Don't try to time the market. Now is a great time to sell, and waiting might cause you to lose out. So remember, we talked about if you are trying to buy after you sell, Now is not the time to say, let me time the market, let me wait it out. Because as soon as you need to buy something, you're going to be, if you're waiting until interest rates drop, you're really not going to be in the best position to buy something. So, and the reason for that is because there's going to be such fierce competition that you're not going to get a contingent offer accepted. If you're contingent on selling your home, it's not going to get accepted. So we really have to think about, if now is the time to sell, we don't want you to lose out. And then we want to make sure that you're pricing your home strategically. So oftentimes pricing lower will drive your price higher, likely to a higher amount than you even wanted in the first place. So of course, that's going to be up to me as your agent to help walk you through. So if you're interested in knowing more, definitely come reach out to me. If you're interested in knowing more about the interest rate side of things and what's going on in the market with if you're a buyer, then Martin is going to be the one to reach out to. All right, and now we are here for our bonus. Is now the right time to buy? So we're talking to sellers, but if you are a buyer also, let's see. Here's the truth. It's rarely beneficial to buy and sell in the same market. But as we talked about, sometimes you have to. So if you need to buy, consider this. When interest rates drop, more buyers will come to the market and competition will be fierce, like we talked about, potentially pricing you out of your preferred area. And so if that's the case, right now, you could potentially afford the area that you want to live in. You could buy your beach house. You could buy, some fancy mansion that you want to buy. But if the interest rates drop, if you're waiting for interest rates to drop, tons of buyers come to the market. We talked about supply and demand. If lots of buyers come to the market, that competition will be fierce and those interest rates will go, or not the interest rates, the housing prices will go up. If we still have low inventory, high demand, prices go up. And then that house that you want to buy, that dream home, you're not going to be able to afford anymore because that price has gone up so high. So now might be the right time to buy, because you could buy now and realize all of that appreciation. And then when everybody's buying and everybody's selling, you can be sitting pretty knowing, hey, I already am in my perfect dream house. And now I have the benefit of being able to refinance into that lower interest rate. So definitely take that into consideration, is that waiting for interest rates to drop is not necessarily going to be the best bet for you. Buy the house you want now, and remember, you can refinance later. So when we're talking about refinancing, when we're talking about all of this, definitely reach out to Martin for any kind of refinance needs, any kind of home buying needs. Martin is your go-to guy. And then reach out to me for any kind of real estate needs. I work with people all over the map. So I can definitely, if I can't help you, I can refer you to a great agent who can. Martin, and if you would not mind, please filling out the survey for us. We want to make sure that we're making these as beneficial as possible for you. So fill out that survey. We want to hear from you. Martin, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. Always a great question. So obviously we're trying to attract sellers at this time. And when you're looking to sell your home, obviously it just comes down to the fact that, do I need to sell? Do I want to sell? But regardless of what your reasons may be or holding back reasons may be, now is an excellent opportunity to be able to talk to both Brittany and myself, to be able to just sit down, let us provide information so you can make informed decisions. Let's look at all of the numbers. Let's look at how we can make something make sense for you, to find out if it is something that could truly be a benefit to you at this time, and to help you meet the needs of yourself and your family.
And I love that you're saying that, because I do honestly think that both of us have had plenty of clients who we've sat down and talked to them and said, you know what? I don't think right now is going to be the best time for you. I think let's hold off a year. Let's hold off 2 years, whatever it is, because we're not in it to make a buck. We're in it to try and really help you and your family and your financial future. And if we think this is not the best way to go, we're going to let you know that. We're going to be your advisor. And so we want you to know that we are here for you.
Brittany, in that same line, there are people that we've talked with as well that are pretty staunch-heartedly, no, I'm not moving at this time. There's no way you're gonna help make me sell my home. We're not here to make you sell a home, but there have been people where I've been talking to and explaining all the numbers, putting pen to paper, and being able to show them some of the various advantages of why selling at this time might be a benefit to them, and then having people go, you know what? Great points. And people who were stout about not wanting to sell did selling their property and looking at mortgages with higher interest rates at this time because of the information that we provided to them made sense. So not
Yeah.
everybody is going to do that, but there are some that were adamant about not and wanting to move forward after we spoke with them.
Yeah, good point. And I would say too, just as a reminder, as just because I mentioned this earlier, but it is true. I am buying a house right now in this market. And so this is something that, like I believe in this because I am actually living out what I'm saying. I'm not just saying you should buy, you should sell. I really believe that this is a great time to buy. And I just sold, and I sold for a lot higher than I thought I was going to get. So I'm a living case study of all of these things.